has 6 shots on goal for some of these goalies. Give me both teams to score in the first period. That's coming in at plus 185 compared to the over 1.5 that is at minus 120. Okay, you guys ready? Let's make some freaking money. It's time for Bucket with Jo. Happy Saturday, everyone. It's December 7th already. Jo here at SportsGrid. It's time for Bucket with Jo over here on SportsGrid TV on X. It's a big day out there on the ice. We've got a ton of games to go over. Again, we'll do that recap at the end of the show for anyone who does join this late or wants to come back. So let's kick it off. The Utah Hockey Club taking on the Buffalo Sabres. Now, all odds are over on FanDuel. We're currently seeing this one with the Buffalo Sabres a minus 118 favorite. Yesterday, they were a minus 130 favorite. Minus 102 here for the Utah Hockey Club. Total 5.5. Minus 132 to the over. And I do think we're going to get a push soon to a 6.5. I do think we're going to see the goals coming out of both of these teams. And yes, Utah has struggled overall in the season to put a lot of goals on the board, but Buffalo is a team that's allowing those goals to come in right now. I think this is a competitive game between these two teams, one that has every opportunity of going to overtime. The forward units on both sides, I really do like what we've seen out of them. We know Tage Thompson is able to light the lamp, and Clayton Keller for Utah. So when we look at that, I think this is a tighter one than the number, and it has been reflected in what we've seen overnight with those lines moving. So Buffalo here, I do think are able to win. Now, if this doesn't go to overtime, I think they win at 4-2 because they get an empty netter. If this goes to overtime, then we know they can't cover that puck line. So I'm a little cautious on taking the puck line here because I am taking that overtime bet. So I'm not going to take regulation for either of these teams. I think 4-2 win for the Buffalo Sabres if it finishes before overtime. And if we go to overtime, I do think Buffalo can still win it. So they're minus 118 on the money line. Better value than we were getting today. Thank you guys so much for being here so nice and early on a Saturday. Well, not early on a Saturday. We always come here noon Eastern, 10 a.m. my time. So the coffee is still flowing, you guys. Well, you guys know it's flowing all day. So give me the over 5.5. I think it's the best bet. It's either 4-2 or it's 3-3 going into overtime, which puts us at 6. I know it's juicy, but I've got to go there. Now, I'm liking a lot of unders today, and that's what we're going to talk about between the Flyers and the Boston Bruins. This one has a total of 5.5. We're starting to see a little bit more plus money on the 5.5 to the under, coming in right around plus 100 right now. It was minus 108 earlier, so we are starting to see movement on that over. No one likes to bet an under in hockey, but I tell you, it can be so profitable. I hope you guys ulted that one line yesterday to under 5.5 because there were only 4 goals in that game that we ulted yesterday. This is another one where I do think it's very similar. I can see Boston winning this game 2-1 or 3-1 in this matchup here with the Flyers. The Flyers actually have been playing some pretty good hockey. They're off that loss to the Panthers, but they're 6-3-1 in their last 10 games. So this is a team that is locking down on the defensive side. Owen Tippett in that last game out, even though they lost to the Panthers, he was able to get 2 goals on the board. So they got their playmakers. I do think defense locks down in this one. We know the Boston Bruins have been trying to lock down more defensively. Now Swayman is in goal, and Swayman's had his ups and downs, but he is 6-3-1 in his last 10 games as well. So I'm looking for a lot out of Swayman. Fedorov expected here for the Flyers. And this game kicks off at 1 p.m. Eastern, you guys. I love looking at these earlier games. And yes, I'm looking at Utah and Buffalo to go over. But these earlier games where their core is a defense for the offense to be a couple steps behind in those games. So I do think this is a lower scoring one, the under 5.5 at plus 100. It's interesting, though, to look at the Flyers here because the Boston Bruins have lost their last 5 at home versus the Metro. We have the Flyers sitting 5th in the Metro. Could they pull off the upset today? The first night of a back-to-back, they have Utah on deck tomorrow at home. Boston is off a win versus Chicago Blackhawks, 4-2 on Wednesday. So it's Saturday. They don't play again till Tuesday versus the Jets, and they will be on the road for that one. So if they're looking ahead to that road trip, not really taking the Flyers yeah, giving them the respect they deserve. We could see that loss, but I just don't see it happening today because I think Boston is really motivated and is focused right now. Okay. The Winnipeg Jets taking on the Chicago Blackhawks. The Winnipeg Jets, a $2 favorite, minus 205 here on the money line. The Chicago Blackhawks at plus 168, and we do have another total of 5.5. The under 5.5 coming in at plus 106, the over at minus 130. I know how strong the Winnipeg Jets are at getting those goals on the board, but I do think we have to take this one under the 5.5. This is a 4 p.m. Eastern puck drop on this one. And I look here. We know Chicago struggled to score. They haven't been able to put up a ton of goals on the season. And yes, they've been playing some good hockey. We've also seen Teravainen at home versus the Jets has been strong, being able to get a goal in 3 of the last 4 home appearances versus the Winnipeg Jets. So if you want to look at Teravainen, he would be the playmaker here for Chicago. But I just don't trust Chicago to put up their shares of the goals here on Connor Hellebuyck. Now, this is the first night of a back-to-back for the Winnipeg Jets. They've got the Columbus Blue Jackets on deck at home tomorrow. And we're looking here at Chicago. They've lost their last 4. They absolutely need a win here. The last time these teams played was in October. We saw the Winnipeg Jets get a 2-1 win. I do think it's that low scoring of a game. Now, I tried to manipulate taking the Chicago Blackhawks team total to the under. There's just not enough value. I do think this is another, 2-1, 3-1 style game. So the under 5.5 is where I will go in this one. We have seen the Chicago Blackhawks struggle in day games versus the Central Division. So they have lost 12 of their last 13 day games versus the Central Division. So just some stats for you. But when we look at them versus the Winnipeg Jets, and there's no value. I want to take Chicago on the puck line. There's no value in it. They're coming in plus 1.5 on that puck line at minus 160, but they play the Jets tight, covering the puck line in the last 4. So I wouldn't look at the Winnipeg Jets here on the puck line. I wouldn't look at Chicago on the puck line because there's no value. I would just look at the straight under 5.5 and hold your breath that Peter Mrazek is able to hold up his end of the deal in this one. I just don't see a heck of a lot of goals. Okay. You hit that? Oh my God, I love it. Timo Meyer for the goal and Trocheck goal parlayed at plus 850. Oh my God, you got 4K on that? Absolutely beautiful. I love that you were able to cash on that one. Let's look at the Carolina Hurricanes taking on the New York Islanders. Oh, you guys, I don't want to say another under. I'm not going to say another under. I think Carolina comes out nice and strong. We know Carolina's so strong at limiting their opponent's ability to get those shots on goal. Defensively, this team is able to lock right down. They're a $2 favorite here on the road over the Islanders. Islanders coming in at plus 158. Total 5.5. I want to take it to the under 5.5, but I'm a little worried about what the Islanders are going to do. The over is minus 132. It's too juicy. The under at plus 108. I do think you look here at the goaltending. Now, Tarakovsky is in net. He's been recalled for the Carolina Hurricanes here. He's an unknown. We don't know what the Islanders are going to be able to put up on him. Now, Sorokin in goal has kind of let me down in some of these games. He's allowing these goals to come in that game versus the Seattle Kraken. I couldn't believe the light shots that he allowed just to fly by him. So I'm looking here at Carolina to get off to a hot start. I do think we go over 1.5 goals in the first period because of Dustin I can't pronounce his name right. The goaltender, the AHL goaltender brought up for Carolina is in net like we expect here. I expect probably the Islanders to find the back of the net. They're at home. Bo Horvat has been strong, and I do think they have every ability to help us with that over 1.5. But I think we're more likely to see Carolina go up in that first period, get those goals on the board. And I've got college football catching my eye. Hopefully you guys cannot hear my feed as it's going on right now. I have Iowa State and Arizona State going. So that's in this one. Arizona State all day long if you guys want to jump in on that with me. I think it's going to be a great game for Cam Scadaboo. I've altered up all of his numbers here. 3+ touchdowns at plus 1,900. So that is absolutely what I love today. But yeah, looking at the Carolina Hurricanes, I'm looking at them to go up in that first period over 1.5 Goals in the first period for this game is minus 118. First period puck line here for the Carolina Hurricanes, minus a half goal at plus 140. Now, I do think both of those goals will come by Carolina. Could it be 1-0 going into the second? Yes, we'll still cash as long as it's Carolina who goes up 1-0. So pick and choose between those. I like both of those bets. I think Carolina can go up 2-0 in the first period, but we could see that 1-1, so then we won't cover that puck line. The San Jose Sharks versus the Florida Panthers. You guys, this is straight, simple, easiest handicapping in the world. Bobrovsky just had a baby. Bobrovsky is back on the ice. Give me Bobrovsky. Over 23.5 save shots on goal. Give me Bobrovsky for the shutout. Goalies coming back after having their babies normally come out flying out of the gate. They're facing the San Jose Sharks today, and this is a Sharks team. I want to take their team total under 2.5. No value at minus 172. Mackenzie Blackwood in net. We know the Florida Panthers will be able to hit Blackwood in this one. This team has been playing so hot. They've won their last 10 versus the Sharks, and I'm just all over Bobrovsky for a big day. Now, the only fear with the save shots on goal, 23.5, is the Florida Panthers can lock down on the defensive side. They're off the win versus the Flyers, 7-5. They allowed way too many goals to the Flyers, way too many opportunities. So you would think the defense would lock down a little bit harder. This is their last game at home before going out on 5 games on the road. So I'm expecting them to entertain their home crowd. I like their team total over 4.5 goals. That's coming in at plus 130. And if I'm looking for the Sharks to stay under 2.5 goals and the Panthers to go over 2.5 or over 4.5 goals, I do like the alt puck line here for the Florida Panthers. The alt puck line here for the Florida Panthers laying 2.5 goals. It's only plus 120. This is how much the market is loving the Florida Panthers. Would I like to see the upset? Would I love to say come in and take the Sharks at plus 310? Absolutely, I would love to say that. I would love to say take them plus 1.5 on the puck line at plus 122. I just can't get there with Bobrovsky just having his baby. I think it's a perfect opportunity to look at a goaltender to come out so hot and be able to just protect his net. So I will take the Florida Panthers on the alt puck line. I will take Bobrovsky for a shutout once we get those numbers up. Now, this game not kicking off to 6:10 Eastern, so we're not going to get those numbers up for the shutout for a while. But as long as you're getting good value on the shutout, I am definitely rolling with them. Sam Bennett and Sam Reinhart for those goals. Absolutely. You got to look at them. Sam Bennett has been so strong at home. He's scored a goal in 4 of the last 5 home games for the Florida Panthers here. You know Sam Reinhart is that guy that last season, those power play goals were absolutely clicking out there. Look at any combination on that top line for their points tonight, for the power play points as well. We're seeing the Sharks off that loss to Tampa 8-1 on the road. I think this could be another 8-1 style loss here, or 8-0 even for the San Jose Sharks. I just think the Florida Panthers have a huge night. Again, 5 games on the road on deck here. We've seen Arizona State strike first. They have the field goal on the board over Iowa State. You guys, I'm so excited for this game. I can't wait to watch. So let's fly through the rest of the slate out there on the ice, because you know Miami, Ohio is in action versus Ohio as well. So we got to get into these college football games. But Colorado versus Detroit. Colorado right now are a $2 favorite on that money line, plus 164 for the Detroit Red Wings, total 6.5. Minus 124 to the over 6.5. And for everyone who loves overs, here's the overplay of the day. We know Detroit will put up their share of the goals on Georgiev. They're bleeding goals right now. The Colorado Avalanche, you can't trust them to lock down on the defensive side. They've dominated versus the Red Wings. So I do look for them to come in and dominate here as well. They're just allowing too many goals for me to take this to the under. If you want to just look at Colorado's team total to the over, I do think they're going to hit Huso and hit him hard in this one. For the Red Wings, though, Lucas Raymond has been hot out here for the Red Wings. He has scored a goal in 4 of the last 5 at home for the Red Wings. So I would look at Lucas Raymond for that goal. The Red Wings over their last 4 games, 15 goals allowed, and they've scored 11. And when we look here at Colorado, They are 4-2 in the last 6 meetings versus the Red Wings to the over. So I do think we just take this one over, sit back and enjoy it. Could this one go to overtime? Interesting look here for this one to go to overtime. We know this Red Wings team has been digging deep. They've lost their last 4, though. That last one on Thursday, heartbreaking loss 2-1 to the Ottawa Senators. Yes, they only put up 1 goal in that game. This will be the offensive production that we're looking for out of the Red Wings because of Georgiev. So don't worry about that. I do think both of these teams looking to get back on track. Who do I trust more? It's Colorado, but there's no value. I can't even take Colorado on that puck line because I think there's an opportunity of overtime. It is the first night of a back-to-back here for the Colorado Avalanche. They have the New Jersey Devils on the road tomorrow. And then we're looking here at the Red Wings. They're off tomorrow. They're at the Sabres on Monday. Okay, Washington versus Montreal, you guys. Logan Thompson expected here for the Washington Capitals and Sam Montague for the Montreal Canadiens. We know Montreal just clicking with Patrick Laine on the ice finally for them. We've got Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki, just huge playmakers together out there for the Montreal Canadiens. Total sitting at 6.5. Now the 6.5 at plus 112 to the over. We've got minus 138 to the under. This was, I believe, a 5.5 when this opened. I'd have to confirm that, but I do think it was 6 or 5.5. I did like this one to the over when it was at that, and I liked Montreal's team total over 2.5 goals because I think they can get 3 here in this one. I like the Capitals on the road. I don't want to step in front of the Capitals, but I think Montreal will score. I like what we're seeing out of this offense right now, and I think with Patrick Laine back out on the ice, it's really hard to fade this team not to be able to get 3 goals in this game. So if you're still getting the over 2.5 at juice right around the minus 130, I think there is value on that. If you're going to have to lay into the minus 140 mark, I wouldn't hit on it. Now, could Montreal pull off the upset versus the Washington Capitals? The Washington Capitals have just been so strong on the road. It is the second night of back-to-back, and they were in an intense battle last night versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. They were able to get a 3-1 win. I think because of how hard they played defensively last night, this is why I would look at Montreal's team total to that over, because I think they allow those goals. I don't want to step in front of the Winnipeg Jets right now, but I definitely don't want to completely fade Montreal in this one. So you guys see over 2.5 goals is the best way to go. And again, Patrick Laine, Cole Caulfield, and Nick Suzuki for those points on the board. Let's talk the Toronto Maple Leafs on their second night of a back-to-back, and the Pittsburgh Penguins, again, second night of a back-to-back as well for them. Current odds right now on FanDuel, minus 164 here for the Leafs. We're also seeing the Pittsburgh Penguins coming in home dog at plus 136, total of 6.5, minus 124 to the under 6.5. And I got to go there. You guys, I think this is a lower scoring game, but there's lots of opportunities to capitalize on some playmakers for their points today. And we're going to go over all of these playmakers that have been really strong out there on the ice and what we've seen out of them. I'm going to take the under, and then I'm just going to look at player props. I don't want to jump on either side. I do think Tristan Jarry has the possibility of pulling off the upset win here for the Pittsburgh Penguins. I think if you like them, you've got to look at the Pittsburgh Penguins in the first period, because this team shoots themselves in the foot. We know that. When we look at Tristan Jarry, he's been allowing those goals to just come in nonstop, it seems, over his last 6 starts. In 3 of those, he's allowed over 4 goals. So it hasn't been pretty. But when we look at Tristan Jarry versus the Toronto Maple Leafs, he has been strong. He's had 1 career shutout versus them. He's gone 5-3 with a 2.86 goals against average and a save percentage of .909. If we can get that Tristan Jarry out there on the ice, then the Pittsburgh Penguins have every ability to get the win here. He'll get the best defensive support to start this game. I really do believe so. If you like the Pittsburgh Penguins, again, first period money line is where I would go. Get that plus money. Get the heck out of Dodge on the straight up winner in this, because we know Toronto is able to fight their way back. Joseph Woll expected in goal, and this team has scored 4 goals or more in 2 of their last 3 road games. So this team is a team that on the road has been able to put those goals up on the board. They've also won 5 of the last 6 meetings versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. So that is a scary situation to be in, especially when both of these teams are on the second night of a back-to-back. I'm going to look at Austin Matthews. We saw him last night in the game versus the Washington Capitals be limited in his ability to get those shots on goal. He was only able to record 2 shots on goal. I watched parts of that game. I really did think there was a third shot, but it didn't register as a shot. So anyone that was rolling with his over 2.5 shots would have been super frustrated last night. But 5+ shots on goal for Austin Matthews coming in at plus 122, and the anytime goal at plus 110 is where I'm going to go. The last time he faced the Pittsburgh Penguins, like I said, limited last night, but the last time he faced the Pens, he put up 8 shots on net. So I do think he can get there. Again, Matthew Knies has scored at least 1 goal in each of the Leafs' past 4 versus the Pittsburgh Penguins as well. So he has had that ability to get those goals versus the Pens. So if you want to look at Matthew Knies here for the Toronto Maple Leafs, again, I'm looking at 2 players to get goals in a game that I think stays under. But if one of those hits for Toronto, we're in the money. When we look here at the Penguins, we got to look at a couple of things. Sidney Crosby for the point tonight is way too highly juiced at minus 188. I do like him for the assist at plus 118. Now, Sidney Crosby enters tonight with points in 5 of the last 6 games, 1 goal and 5 assists. And 9 of his last 11 games, he has points, 2 goals, and 8 assists. He has 1,022 assists in his career. He's 1 assist shy of tying Gordie Howe for the 5th most NHL assists in history. Can he get it tonight? He's on home ice. I would look at Sidney Crosby for the assist at plus 118 to tie up Gordie Howe there. I think it's a fantastic angle to look at. But we've got to look at Malkin too. We know how strong Malkin has been in his this season, but you've also got to look at him, how he's played against the Toronto Maple Leafs. There's a lot of things to break down here. So I'm going to look at him for the goal firstly. That's coming in at plus 300. I'm going to look at him for 2+ points at plus 420, 3+ points at plus 1,500. I'm going to put a third of a unit on all 3 of those bets, and this is why. When we look at Malcolm versus Leafs, 47 games, 24 goals, 47 assists, 71 total points. So you guys, 47 games, 71 total points. He's been held scoreless against Toronto only 10 times in his career. So you guys, in 47 games, 37 of those games, he has scored a goal. Crazy. It's just absolutely insane. He has recorded 3 or more points in 10 games against the Leafs. So 3 or more points, 3+ points coming in at plus 1,500. He's done it 10 times in 47 games. Worth a shot, you guys. 20 games. He has recorded multi-points versus the Leafs. 20 of the 47 games. That is just under 50% here. You know, like 42%. He has been able to record 2+ points, 2+ points tonight at plus 420. It is definitely worth a shot for me. So big on Malkin tonight. Malkin for the anytime goal at plus 300. Malkin for 2+ points at plus 420. We just saw the touchdown there by Iowa State, and 3+ points at plus 1,500. So that is absolutely where I'm going with this one. I think Malkin has a big night. Sid gets that assist in this. And then Austin Matthews and Matthew Knies, I will look at for Toronto. If Malkin comes out and plays the way we've seen him versus the Leafs, the Penguins will get this win. Again, the Penguins in the first period. I think it's the best way to look at this. Happy Saturday. Let's make some freaking money, John, out there today. And Larry, it's a huge slate. Lots of opportunities. If you didn't take Arizona State pregame, I would jump on Arizona State right now in college football. You guys, you can get them plus 5.5 at minus 128 on that spread, or plus 154 straight up. I got them at minus 118 last night on the money line to get the win. That money line did drop down to minus 102. So just some live looks there at college football, as well as Miami, Ohio up 3-0. I was riding Miami, Ohio in this game. They're minus 120 on the money line currently. I just had to tell you that. Oof. I'm excited for the college football today. Scott Wetzel and myself will be live during the afternoon game. So join us today. It'll be a lot of fun. Okay, 3:30 Eastern, we go live. The Nashville Predators taking on the Ottawa Senators. You guys, we're flying through the slate. Saros expected here for the Predators. Allmark For the Ottawa Senators, you guys that don't like unders are going to hate me on this. The under 5.5 coming in at plus 102. I am going there with this matchup. The Ottawa Senators, slight favorite at home at minus 120, plus 100 for the Predators. This Predators team has lost their last 6 on Thursday. Got shut out by Montreal 3-0. Now, Saros expected. Saros versus the Ottawa Senators has fantastic numbers. He's been able to record 1 shutout in 10 career appearances versus the Ottawa Senators. He's gone 5-1-4 with a 2.34 goals against average and a 924 save percentage. And when we look at Omar, his last couple games out here for Ottawa, he's been playing great. And his last 2 games that we saw him with the Bruins versus the Nashville Predators, he was able to record 1 shutout. And then in the other game, he allowed 1 goal. And I believe it was like on 23 shots on net. So I really like what we've seen out of Omar recently and in the past versus the Nashville Predators. And I like what we've seen in the past for Saros versus the Ottawa Senators. I think this one stays under. You can look at the Ottawa Senators team total under 2.5. It's where I have the most faith in this under. I think the Ottawa Senators struggle to score on Saros, not because of his recent form this year, but because I think he brings that next level of confidence in here in this game. He needs to stand on his head for the Predators to break this losing streak. A team that's lost their last 6, am I willing to really jump on them here to win the full game? No. I will take them in the first period on that puck line, though. On the money line. First period money line coming in at minus 102. You have value on the money line as they are the dog. They've won the last 4 first periods when rolling into Ottawa. So I think they have every ability to do the same. We're seeing the Ottawa Senators off that win versus the Red Wings 2-1. And this is the first night of a back-to-back. They'll have the Isles on deck tomorrow. We look here at the look-ahead schedule for the Preds. They can't look ahead to anything. They've lost their last 6. They've got to be on point today. But they do have the Flames at home on Tuesday, you guys. There's some milestones to watch in this one as well. Philip Forsberg, we all love Forsberg out there. He is 3 power play points away from passing Shea Weber's 80 for the most in Predators history. So he's got 78 power play points. He's 3 away from passing, so 2 away from tying Shea Weber for the most power play points in Predators history, and he's 4 goals away from goal 300 in his NHL career. Forsberg, definitely a play on today. Luke Schenn as well, 3rd-line defenseman out here. He's 1 point away from 200 career points in the NHL. The problem with Luke Schenn tonight, on FanDuel, you can't get a point, right? So if your book will give you the point for him, absolutely look at him for the point tonight. I can't even get an assist for him. He's a defenseman, you guys. He is on that 3rd line of defense. So expecting him to get a goal tonight is a huge ask. He's coming in at plus 1,400 for the goal. Like I said, Omar has been playing strong. It is a major long shot. I wouldn't look at it. And if I say it today and tell you guys not to look at it and it hits, I'm going to be kicking myself. But it's too much to ask. It's the longest of long shots there for Luke Schenn. I would look at his point again if you can get it. He has 1 goal and 28 shots on goal this season, 32 block shots. So such a strong defenseman out here, but without being able to get the point. And if we were able to get the point, I haven't been able to find on any books. I would be assuming you'd get plus money for it because he just doesn't register a lot out there. Now, when we look at Stamkos versus the Senators, we know Stamkos can go so silent in some of these games. He has 46 points in 51 games versus the Ottawa Senators in his career. He has found the score sheet in 6 of his last 8 versus Ottawa with 2 goals and 8 assists. So if you want to look at Stamkos for the point tonight, parlay that with maybe Forsberg and Jonathan Marchessault. I do like that look here. Jonathan Marchessault has recorded 20 points, 11 goals, and 9 assists in 18 games versus the Ottawa Senators. And Roman Josi, we know how strong Josi has been. He's posted a 5-game point streak, 4 goals and 4 assists versus the Ottawa Senators. So he comes out nice and strong. I like parlaying any of those, round robining any of those guys for the anytime point today. I think it's a great way to go in this matchup, you guys. Let's get this money. Yes, we will go over those favorites for sure at the end of the show when we do the recap. No worries on being late. We'll do the recap at the end. First periods, overs and unders. Yeah, I'm trying with some of these first periods. It's hard in some of these games today. One game that I think should stay under that is the Minnesota Wild and the LA Kings at first period, under 1.5. We got Marc-Andre Fleury expected here for the Minnesota Wild and David Rittich for the LA Kings. Now, I know your gut kind of sinks when you think about David Rittich coming in. Huge play out there for Arizona State, you guys. It looks like they're going to run almost in the end zone. Love it. Okay, so David Rittich overall in the season, 2.45 goals against average with an 891 save percentage. Terrible, right? Like looking at David Rittich to be able to pull out the win for his team off of those numbers doesn't sound good. But when you look at David Rittich versus the Minnesota Wild, we see the Kings step up, and we've seen David Rittich step up versus the Wild as well. 5-0-1 in 6 career games versus the Wild. He has a 2.11 goals against average and a 935 save percentage. I have to play on the LA Kings, especially with how they step up. Now, when we look at those odds on FanDuel, we're not getting a lot of value, you guys. The LA Kings are minus 162 on the money line. I do think it's a low-scoring battle. I think the first period stays under 1.5. I have more faith, though, in the Wild's team total under than I do in the LA Kings because it's kind of dangerous here. This Kings team could explode at some point, but Marc-Andre Fleury has really solid numbers. Marc-Andre Fleury, has really solid numbers on the season, a 905 save percentage. Don't take for the record against the Kings. The record against the Kings is not good. 3-6 in 10 games versus the Kings with a goals against average of 3.84 and a save percent of 867. So I do think the Kings could explode here. I'm going to look at the Wild's team total under 2.5. That's coming in at minus 118. I expect that walk down. I'm just a little nervous that the Kings could put up that extra goal on Fleury that pushes us over the total of 5.5. I'm going to look at the Kings on the puck line. I can't look at them on the money line. The puck line here for the LA Kings is coming in at minus 1.5 at plus 160. Absolutely. We're starting to lose value on that. That was plus 165 when I first looked today. Now, Kopitar has to go off in tonight's game here. This is, it is point, let me see. I just saw something. I just want to make sure. Games played. Yeah, games played for Kopitar. 1,400 tonight. It sounds like so many games, but I guess at the end of the day, it really isn't. Game number 1,400 for Kopitar. I was just thinking I was remembering that wrong there, you guys. I'm going to take him for the anytime goal. That's coming in at plus 300. I'm also going to take him for the 2+ points at plus 300. Do you think those will be 2 goals here? You're asking a lot because it is Marc-Andre Fleury who has solid numbers this season, but Kopitar has been able to score on him before. And I do think in game number 1,400, we see that huge step up. Like I said, the Kings play their best hockey, some of their best hockey against the Minnesota Wild. They've gone 6-3 in the last 9 meetings, 3-1 in the last 4 meetings as well versus them. So I think the Kings come up big in this one. It's also the second night of a back-to-back here for the Minnesota Wild. So they got the Friday win over the Anaheim Ducks 5-3. And talking about those Anaheim Ducks, if you didn't know, Chuba has been traded from the New York Rangers to the Anaheim Ducks. He had a no trade clause, so he must have signed off on that. It's going to be really interesting to see him there with the young talent that the Anaheim Ducks have, especially in Troy Terry. So he's going to be hugely impactful for that team. Something to note, though, the whole hockey community was watching how the New York Rangers treated their captain and what they did yesterday. It wasn't pretty, you guys, and I don't like the move. And yes, the New York Rangers came together and were able to get the win. Probably out of fear that they're all on the chopping block and don't want to move their families mid-season. I'm not sure, but I really do think maybe he was the problem, right? Because we saw the Rangers step up. We sometimes see those teams come out deflated and in protest in that next game, but I don't know. We'll see how the Rangers roll from here, but the Ducks getting a great addition at the end. Brady, let's get going here. We're going to move on to the next game, the last game on deck, and then we're going to get into that recap, you guys. We have the St. Louis Blues taking on the Edmonton Oilers. Binghamton versus the Edmonton Oilers has been elite. So let me put that in your head first. I'll read you these lines. Plus 220 here for the St. Louis Blues, minus 275 for the Edmonton Oilers. Like, gag. come on. They shouldn't be this big of a favorite over the St. Louis Blues team, who is playing well. We got a total of 6.5. Again, for those of you who hate unders, this is another under game for me, minus 134 to the under. It's juicy, you guys. I don't love the juice you're having to lay, and I do expect Skinner to come out okay. Like, Skinner can't give up these goals, but the St. Louis Blues aren't a team that we see a ton of goals out of normally. Sorry, I'm just watching Arizona State kind of scramble out there. The quarterback was almost picked up. That was not pretty. Okay, when we look at Binghamton in this last couple games, last 3 meetings versus the Edmonton Oilers, the defense has really lapsed, and he's had an average of 37 shots put on him. His record versus the Edmonton Oilers in his career is 6-2-1 with a 2.77 goals against average and a 907 save percentage. I would look at his shots on goal to the over, no matter what number they are giving you tonight. The Edmonton Oilers average 33.1 shots on goal per game. And the St. Louis Blues are not giving their goaltending support, allowing an average of 29.5. So even if you've got a number of 32.5 for Binghamton, take it to the over. Binghamton absolutely can handle that workload versus the Edmonton Oilers. We've seen Edmonton really trending to the under, even though, you've seen that high scoring game in their last one out versus the Columbus Blue Jackets 6-3. I think this one stays under that total. The St. Louis Blues have won their last 2. They got the overtime win on Thursday versus the Calgary Flames, 4-3. Robert Thomas has been really strong when we look at him versus the Oilers in his career. He's been able to score a goal in 5 of the Blues' last 6 on the road in Edmonton versus the Oilers. So I do think you can look at Robert Thomas in this one to come out for that goal as well. So we just did see a touchdown on the board for Arizona State. There we go. Sam Levitt ran it in himself. Okay, so I'm going to look at the under 6.5. I'm also going to look at the Blues to keep this tight because of Binghamton, you guys. Plus 1.5 on that puck line coming in at minus 114. I would sprinkle on the money line too at plus 220. I think it has every opportunity of cashing in this one. Could it be a 3-2 win for Edmonton? Absolutely. Still could be a 3-2 win with the Blues covering that puck line, but I don't know. I think this might be a game where the Blues could pull off the upset here. So those are all the games, you guys. Let's do the recap. We'll go over the favorite players for those props as well in this one. I just got to pull out my notebook. Let's get to that recap, you guys. And again, thank you so much for everyone for joining me here today. If you could hit that like button, hit that retweet button, hit that subscribe button, and drop below where you're watching from, what you're liking out there on the ice, which picks you are riding with me, which ones you are fading. I want to hear it, all you guys. If you have an idea or something else you'd like to see on Pocket with Jo over here on SportsGrid TV on X, let me know. I'm open to all the suggestions that you guys have. Recap time. Started off. We are at this 37:30 mark. Utah versus Buffalo. I'm expecting both of these teams to put the goals on the board today. Give me the over 5.5. I do think this one has the possibility of going to overtime. Either way, it's going to get us over the 5.5. I could see it going 3-3 into overtime. So 6 goals, and then we get that 7, the total sitting at 5.5. I could also see the Sabres coming out here, getting that empty netter, winning at 4-2 in reg. So the best bet, definitely the over 5.5. But I think it either comes from one of those ways. And if we go to overtime, I would be leaning on Buffalo to be able to pull out the win. It's just a hard place to jump on Buffalo right now as a favorite at home after they've lost their last 5, right? Utah has been playing great hockey as well. So the over 5.5. The Flyers taking on the Boston Bruins. This game is under a 5.5 for me all day. That's coming in at plus money for the under between these two. I like what we've seen out of Swayman as of late. And we know Boston's trying to lock down on that defensive side, which is where the Flyers like to go. The Flyers are off a loss in which they allowed the Panthers to put up 7 goals. They put up 5 themselves. But I do think we see that lockdown in this game defensively. They can't get into a shootout with Boston, and they know it. So the under 5.5. The Winnipeg Jets and the Chicago Blackhawks. Again, another under for me. The under 5.5 in this one coming in at plus money as well. If you're looking for a playmaker here for Chicago, Tara Vinen has scored at home against the Winnipeg Jets in 3 of the last 4 meetings here. The Chicago Blackhawks play in tight games, so this will be a live betting situation for me, you guys. If the Winnipeg Jets go up by a goal in that first period, I will be coming back in on the Chicago Blackhawks on that puck line plus 1.5 for the value. Right now, we're getting no value. We're going to have to lay too much juice on Chicago plus the 1.5. They have been able to cover that puck line in the last 4 versus the Winnipeg Jets. So that's definitely where I would go. When we're looking at the Carolina Hurricanes versus the New York Islanders, I'm going to take the first period over 1.5 goals, as well as the first period puck line here for the Carolina Hurricanes, laying a half a goal at plus 140. Ideally, I want to see this one be 2-0 for Carolina going in to the second period, because then we'll cash both of those bets. I could see a way that the Isles score a goal in that first period as well, because we've got an AHL goalie pulled up for Carolina, but I'm expecting that defensive presence for Carolina really locking down and for them to be able to score on Sorokin. We could also go into the second 3-1 or 2-1 and cover that puck line for Carolina as well. So those are the 2 bets in that game. You know, you got to look at Sebastian Aho for the Carolina Hurricanes for those points. The San Jose Sharks versus the Florida Panthers. Bobrovsky is back. He had his baby, you guys, and I'm expecting this goaltender to roll out so freaking hot. We see goaltenders do it all the time after having those kids out there. So give me Bobrovsky for the shutout if you can find it on your book. His save shots on goal prop is 23.5. Your only worry there is the Sharks don't put up a heck of a lot of shots, and the Florida Panthers can lock down on that defensive side of things. I do think they hit really close to the 23.5. We need that shutout for it to come in, but you can play both of those. A big win here for Bobrovsky and for the Florida Panthers in their last home game before a 5-game road trip. I'll take the outline on the Florida Panthers, laying 2.5 goals at plus 120. It's where you're going to find value. There's no value otherwise, and their team total over 4.5 goals here for the Florida Panthers coming in at plus 130. I do see them scoring 5 goals in this game. Sam Bennett definitely is who I'm going to look at for the anytime goal. You guys throw out Sam Reinhart. I love it too. The Colorado Avalanche and the Detroit Red Wings, just give me the over 6.5 and let me just be excited to see those goals coming in. Detroit is off a game where they were held to only 1 goal versus the Ottawa Senators in that loss. And then we have here the Colorado Avalanche, who allow a ton of goals. Georgiev, we can't trust. So if you want to just look at the Avs team total, it is Ville Husso in net for the Red Wings, but I think the Red Wings will put up their share, pushes over the 6.5. The Washington Capitals and the Montreal Canadiens. I think the Montreal Canadiens offensively with Patrick Laine added into these lineups will be strong offensively in this matchup versus Washington. I'm going to take Montreal's team total over 2.5 goals. That's coming in. It's juicy, right around minus 130, minus 132. But with Cole Caulfield, Nick Suzuki, and Patrick Laine, I really like what we're seeing out of them. And we have Washington on the second night of a back-to-back. They're off a really hard battle versus the Toronto Maple Leafs last night. So I do think we see a couple lapses in the defense. The Toronto Maple Leafs versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is a huge player prop game for me in this. I like the under 6.5. So you got to be cautious when you're playing it under 6.5, but you like so many player props because you normally like to take the player props where you think it's a higher scoring game, but I'm still going to play it in this one. There's so many opportunities. Austin Matthews for 5+ shots on goal coming in at plus 122. Last time he faced the Pittsburgh Penguins, he did put up 8. He was really limited last night versus the Washington Capitals to only 2 shots. So that does light an extra fire. Matthew Knives has been very strong versus the Pittsburgh Penguins. He scored a goal in each of the Leafs' last 4 games against the Penguins. So Matthew Knives here for the Toronto Maple Leafs. But my favorite props are here on the Pittsburgh Penguins. The Pittsburgh Penguins, we got to look at Sidney Crosby first. Sidney Crosby is 1 assist away from tying Gordie Howe's for 5th most assists in the NHL. He has 1,022 assists. His anytime assist tonight at plus 118. Now, who's he going to assist? He's going to assist Malkin out there because Malkin has been an absolute dominant machine against the Toronto Maple Leafs. I'm going to read you these stats again, you guys. You have to hear these stats if you're just here for the recap. Malkin, 47 games versus the Toronto Maple Leafs. 24 goals, 47 assists for a total of 71 points. He's been held scoreless versus the Toronto Maple Leafs only 10 times in his career. It's only 10 times in 47 games. He also in 20 games has recorded multi-points versus the Leafs, and he has 10 times scored 3 or more points. I will take Malkin for the goal at plus 300, for the 2+ points at plus 420, for the 3+ points. Are you ready for it? Plus 1,500 on something he's been able to do 10 times versus this team in 47 games. Hell yeah, I am all over that. It is a long shot, you guys, but definitely one you want to hit on. The Nashville Predators taking on the Ottawa Senators. The Predators on the puck line or the money line in the first period is where I'm going to go, minus 102. They won their last 4 first periods versus the Ottawa Senators. I do think the Ottawa Senators struggled to score on Saros here. He has fantastic numbers versus the Sens. I'm going to take the Sens team total under 2.5 at plus 136. Again, we have milestones to watch for in this game. Philip Forsberg is 3 power play goals away from passing Shea Weber, who has 80 power play goals for the Nashville Predators. So that is a Predators milestone he's looking to reach. He has 78. 2 more ties him with Shea Weber. 3 more puts him over. I don't think he's going to hit all 3 in this one, but definitely somewhere you want to look is at that power play. The power play here for the Ottawa Senators is really hot as well. So their kill has been all right, but I do think we could see Philip Forsberg get at least a point tonight. So you can look at those parlay points. Again, defenseman on the third line, Luke Schenn, is 1 point away from 200 NHL points in his career. Really hard to take his points. You got to really shop your books to try to find it out there. But if you can get it, 1 goal, 28 shots on goal this season, and 32 block shots for this defenseman, he could get the point tonight. If it comes by the goal, that's plus 1,400. I'm going to be kicking myself if I said it and didn't take it. I just don't see it. It's going to be a hard one here on Allmark because Allmark has been playing strong. Now, Stamkos has great numbers versus the Ottawa Senators as well. 46 points, 19 goals, and 27 assists in 51 career games versus the Sens. So you could look at him for the point. You could also look at Jonathan Marchessault for the point. He's got 20 points, 11 goals, and 9 assists in 18 career games versus the Sens. And then Roman Josi for the point tonight. He has a 5-game point streak, 4 goals and 4 assists against the Ottawa Senators in his career. So he's probably my favorite. Roman Josi has been on fire this season. Looking at the Minnesota Wild and the LA Kings here, I'm going to take the Wild's team total under 2.5. David Rittich, while he doesn't have great numbers on the season with a 891 save percentage, when we look at him versus the Wild, he's absolutely lights out. He's got a 935 save percentage, a 2.11 goals against average. I do think the Wild are locked down by the LA Kings. The defense is so strong at not allowing their opponents those shots on goal. Now, Marc-Andre Fleury doesn't have great numbers versus the LA Kings. Well, he has great numbers on the season. So which Marc-Andre Fleury are we going to see? Because that is such an unknown for me, I'll just take the Wild's team total under that 2.5 at minus 118. Kopitar is in game 1,400 tonight. You guys look at Kopitar for the anytime goal at plus 300 for the LA Kings here at 2+ points at plus 300 as well. Like I said, the Kings play some of their best hockey versus the Minnesota Wild. I'll take the Kings on the puck line here, laying 1.5 goals at plus 164. And then the St. Louis Blues versus the Edmonton Oilers. You guys, Binghamton versus the Edmonton Oilers could sneak out this win for the St. Louis Blues. I think it's worth a sprinkle on the St. Louis Blues on the money line. The puck line, you're going to get value here. The Blues plus 1.5, right around that minus 114 mark. Look at Binghamton's save shots on goal. Again, even if it's 32.5 save shots on goal, the last 3 games versus Edmonton, we have seen the defense really lapse for the St. Louis Blues, and they're lapsing this season. They're allowing an average of 29.5 shots on goal. But in the last 3 versus the Oilers, Binghamton has faced an average of 37 shots on net. This is an Edmonton Oilers team that, yes, while they like to lock down defensively in some of these games, averages still 33.1 shots on goal per game. So I'm looking for Jordan Binghamton to have a night out here. He could possibly steal them the win. It's worth a sprinkle. I would take him up to over 32.5 save shots on goal. If you want to play around with those alt numbers, I would take it all the way up to 34.5 save shots on goal in this one. I would look at Robert Thomas to come out nice and strong here versus the Oilers. He has had that strength versus the Oilers in his career. Okay. That is the game recap. Oh, we got to take Shan. You know, you guys are throwing it out here. Plus 1,600 for the anytime goal. 1 goal on the season, 28 shots, 32 block shots. And we're going to roll with him for his 100th point tonight for Luke Shan to be a goal. Ooh, let's do it. Let's do it at plus 1,600. How can we say no? $1 or $2 on it is right. So same game parlay. Both DK and FanDuel now allow same game parlays for 2+ points. Yeah, FanDuel has been doing that for quite a while. The Flyers breakdown. If you just jump back to the Flyers, okay, we'll quickly do it and then we'll go over the recap for everything. Just because you said please. I love that you said please. The Philadelphia Flyers taking on the Boston Bruins. I do think this one stays under the total of 5.5. We have Swayman. He's won his last 3 games, 6-3-1 in the last 10. He's been playing great hockey out there. I think Boston likes to lock down on that defensive side, but the Flyers do as well. First night of a back-to-back here for the Flyers, and they're off that loss versus the Panthers, in which they allowed all those goals to come racking in. So I think when you look at the Flyers, they know they have to lock down on the defensive side, and Boston likes to do so anyway. This isn't a divisional matchup. If you want to take a shot here on the Flyers, I don't hate it because we have seen the Bruins lose their last 5 at home versus the Metro. So strong trends against them being able to do so. But we do see the Flyers. They have lost each of their last 8 Saturday games in TD Garden here in Boston. I think this, you just stay with the under 5.5. 3-2 win for one of these teams. Could it be 2-2 going into overtime? It absolutely could. So unless we get that empty netter where, you know, it's a 2-1 game for the Bruins and then they get that empty netter as the Flyers aren't able to tie things up. That's the only way I really see it not going to overtime there. So that is what I'm liking, you guys. Let's get into just quickly. Let me just see one thing. We're having just an issue with a couple of the streams here, you guys. We're looking at a point there. Okay, let's jump back into it. Something has happened with my Twitter. So if you're watching on Twitter, I'm not sure if you still are because I am getting an error on Twitter. Fingers crossed. If you're watching on Twitter, let me know. Okay, the players for the player props tonight. Where I'm going with this one, the player props coming at the 51-minute mark. Teravainen, I'm going to look here for the Chicago Blackhawks for a point. So Teravainen, Blackhawks point. I'm going to look at Bobrovsky for, well, no, let's not throw that in there for the Florida Panthers. Let's throw Sam Bennett for the point tonight. Because if you're wanting to do a point parlay, that's where I'd go. Sam Bennett for the point. You could also look at him for the goal. I like him for the goal tonight. The point parlay, though, will put Teravainen of the Blackhawks, Sam Bennett of the Florida Panthers. I would also look at those points to come in for Sidney Crosby. I think it comes by assist. Malkin. So Sid and Malkin for the Penguins. I love those. Again, I like Sid for the assist and Malkin for the points. We talked about that, the goal, the 2+ points, the 3+ points. When we look at the Nashville Predators, again, Luke Shen, we are looking at tonight. Let's just do it. Plus 1,600, plus 1,400, depending where you're getting it. $1 on him to get that anytime goal. He's going for his 200th point tonight. Forsberg, I think you look at for a point tonight for the Predators. Stamkos for a point. Jonathan Marchessault, Roman Josi for the point. My favorite being... Excuse me, sorry. My voice is going. Roman Josi for that point. And then with the Kings, you got to look at Kopitar. Kopitar for the point tonight, game for 1,400 for him to come out there nice and strong. And Robert Thomas for the St. Louis Blues. So you guys, parlay, play around with those points tonight. Look at those goals, especially for players like Kopitar, Malkin that are coming out that they are we've seen them step up versus these teams and also that they're coming out to play for something. So you guys, all the best in all of your bets. Again, I really appreciate each and every one of you for being here today. And we'll be back here at noon Eastern tomorrow. So make sure you join me again. All the best in all of your bets. Let's enjoy this college football slate as well. Cheers, you guys.